Morning, and thank you all for being here. Today is a day of justice, a long-awaited victory, and above all, a day to honor the incredible strength of the survivors. I'm joined today by attorneys Ray Fitch from Baird, Mondelez, Brockstead, and Federico, Steve Kelly from Grant and Eisenhofer, and Kate Stetson by Zoom from Hogan Lovells, who is joining us today. Along with survivors David Lorenz, Aaron Mays, and Kurt Ruprecht, we are pleased and encouraged to be here and to share in the efforts that have made this victory possible. Welcome everyone to this press conference, which is being held at General Law. We're thrilled to have you. For decades, survivors of childhood sexual abuse fought to have their voices heard. They spoke out when no one wanted to listen. They pushed for change when the system told them it was too late. And today, because of their unwavering courage, the Maryland Supreme Court has affirmed their right to justice. This is more than just a legal victory, it's a moral one. The Child Victims Act was made possible by survivors who refused to be silenced and by advocates who stood beside them, fighting for them every day. To every survivor who shared their story, who demanded accountability, and who never gave up, we see you, and we thank you. The victory is yours. It takes a village to make justice a reality. The victory just didn't happen overnight. It was built on the relentless dedication of lawyers, legal staff, advocates, and journalists who refused to let this fight be ignored. To the attorneys who argued this case, the teams who pored over every detail, the staff who worked behind the scenes, and the press who shed light on these injustices, thank you. Despite overwhelming odds, despite powerful opposition, you all stood firm. You never wavered, and today, because of your perseverance, Maryland survivors have the justice they've long deserved. This win belongs to all of you. Ray, a few words.
Thank you. It's a great day. Thank you, Rob. I want to talk briefly about a few things that this ruling does. First, it holds institutions accountable. The court's decision removes the last barrier that institutions were using to avoid responsibility. Now no organization, whether a church, a school, or a state-run facility, can escape accountability simply because time has passed since the abuse occurred. This ruling also reaffirms what we've known, that survivors deserve their day in court. This ruling recognizes that survivors deserve the right to tell their stories and to seek justice. The legal system should work for them and not against them, and that's what this ruling has done. Thank you. Steve?
Thanks, Ray.
Can you move the mics over, sir?
Oh, sorry. Just first want to say, I know I speak for everyone up here when I say that this day is really about the survivors and those people who have, come forward and demonstrated such bravery. A lot of them are here. We have a lot more who are not. But we've heard your stories, and you've trusted us with that, and we've been honored to represent you. And we are very proud of our legal team, our appellate team. Everyone has done tremendous, tremendous work to get us where we are. I would also say that this fight is not about money. It's not about individual compensation. Survivors have said over and over again, this is about justice, truth, and accountability. And that's really what it's about. Truth, accountability, as I like to say, truth and reconciliation. We really have to, in order to move forward and heal, there has to be some accounting, and there has to be information given about what happened and what the true scope of it is. This ruling gives survivors who've waited for decades and decades the ability to confront those who allowed their abuse, in some cases covered it up, and facilitated it, to really demand answers from them and to get some measure of justice. And for that, we are very, very grateful. The court recognized a couple things here that are really important. The biggest thing that the court recognized is the reality of trauma and how difficult it is for survivors to come out of the darkness and the shame and into, to reveal what happened to them and seek, justice. Many people, most people, are not ready to do that until they're in their 50s. And the court recognized that and understood that at a deep level and held that justice should not be denied because of arbitrary legal limits. And the last thing I'll say is that this is really a historic victory that has implications nationwide, not just in Maryland. And so the Maryland court and the Maryland legislature has taken a stand. The political winds have shifted. I was just talking to one of our survivors about, what the court was like for so many years, a Catholic court, Catholic legislature, and how much of an uphill climb this has been. People like the folks that have been here, fighting for 30 years, 40 years more, against extreme power, and the political winds have shifted, and the political winds are shifting nationwide in this regard. And so we hope very much that this will inspire other legislatures to make changes to eliminate statutes of limitations to ensure that no survivor is ever shut out of the courthouse again.
What I'd like to do before we get to our survivors is have Kate Stetson talk to us a little bit about the ruling. We'll move the microphones here best we can.
Sure. Can everybody hear me all right?
Go ahead, Kate.
So let me talk just at a high level about the practical impact of this ruling. And you just heard it through a number of different ways of thinking about this. But at bottom, the Maryland Supreme Court's ruling confirms that Maryland survivors of childhood sexual abuse have the right to seek justice. The court emphatically rejected the argument that defendant institutions should be shielded from accountability simply because they tried to run out the clock. As a legal matter, the question came down to whether the 2017 statute was a statute of limitations or a statute of repose. And in a lengthy, thorough, detailed analysis, the Maryland Supreme Court confirmed that the 2017 law functioned as a statute of limitations, not a statute of repose. That in turn means that it was never meant to and cannot permanently bar survivors from having their day in court. It was constitutional for the Maryland General Assembly to do in 2023 what it did, which is to pass the Child Victims Act. At a broader level beyond Maryland, just to echo Steve's comments from a moment ago, I think this ruling from Maryland's highest court sends a message across the country that justice for survivors should not be limited by arbitrary deadlines set by some past legislature. Courts across the country, legislatures across the country are recognizing the long-lasting impact of abuse and the need for accountability, even if it's many years later. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Kate. So, this is it. This is the ruling. This is what we have been waiting for, certainly since September 10th, but frankly, years and decades before that. This is a well thought out, well-reasoned, beautifully articulated opinion, and we're proud of the work that we've done, that the survivors have done, that results in legal jurisprudence such as this. David Lorenz,
Okay, now we're back.
there is nobody we are prouder to have, quite frankly, than you here today.
Sorry. Thank you. Thanks, Rob. Part of what I want to be here is because I wanted to say thank you to Rob and his team, and Steve, everybody who's worked here. John Shakur, who just wrote a great op-ed that was published, those two legal teams. But a lot of gratitude goes out to Kate. Kate, I know you worked on this so hard and with almost no compensation. I mean, you just took this on, and I sat there through the hearing down at the Maryland Supreme Court, and Kate was absolutely freaking brilliant. I mean, she articulated the arguments, and as she got questions, she swatted them away one by one. Yes, it's this way. No, it's not that way. She just explained to them, and I have no doubt that we won this because of Kate. So thank you, Kate. You know, in 2017, the church put in a last-minute provision into a bill that we thought was going to extend the statute of limitations. They put this provision in, and they snuck it in, and they changed the statute of limitations, and they put in the word repose. And that word has been killing us for the last 5 years on trying to get this extended. They snuck it in, and the Supreme Court knocked that word down and said, you can put all the repose words you want into legislation. This does not fall under that. The church has been sneaking things in over and over and over again. And one of the things I want to point out is the church has spent millions and millions of dollars on fighting the passage of the Child Victims Act. And then they've spent millions of dollars fighting the constitutionality of the Child Victims Act. And you wonder, why would they spend so much money? You know, it looks like it's a gamble to them to try and knock this down. I want people to understand, they're not gambling their own money. I guarantee that before the first case drops, the Diocese of Washington, the Diocese of Wilmington, Delaware, will both file for bankruptcy. And you know what they're going to have is a pool of money left over for victims. And you know that pool of money is lowered by the amount that they have spent fighting this legislation. This was not a gamble on his part. They used survivors' compensation and justice for survivors to fight them. And I want everybody to understand that this was not a gamble. This is a win-win situation for the two dioceses that fought this. And that needs to be understood. And I just want to thank the court for understanding that we are not a product liability. The statute of repose is geared towards product liability. We are not some defective piece of plywood from Lowe's or Home Depot. We are human beings who've been through a lot of trauma. And finally, the court has recognized that. And I want to thank the court for doing that.
So Erin would like to say a few words.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody that has been fighting this fight for much longer than I have. My journey began in 2002 when what happened to me was so bad that I completely repressed it and did not uncover memories until 2017. But today, through the hard-fought fight, for people with delayed memories like myself, it gives us the opportunity without having to battle the skeptics of the science of delayed memories. For the people that were not ready to share after what happened to them, and for those that silence themselves because of fear of repercussions from the church and from their abusers, it gives a voice. And for me, most importantly, I think as David pointed out, the Catholic Church has spouted their support of these victim survivors, but fought every step of the way against this act. And today we get a win over their hypocrisy, and it fills my heart with hope, and I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Kurt Ruprecht, and I am here as a survivor and an advocate for survivors. My abuse occurred in Salisbury, Maryland, but at the hands of the Diocese of Wilmington. So I'm here in spirit and solidarity as a perhaps a representative or certainly a voice for survivors from the Eastern Shore, those 9 counties which are in a unique situation of being a part of the Diocese of Wilmington. I'm grateful today. I'm encouraged. I remember and thank families, my family, friends, medical therapists, caregivers, who, frankly, without those folks, I would not be here today. And I will be eternally grateful to many of the people in this room who kept this hope and quest for justice moving forward. I want to thank everyone in the legislature who believed in us and believed in doing the right thing for justice, and for our truly heartfelt gratitude for our legal team and support, who also frankly provided the strength for us to be heard as well. It's a day of mixed emotions, but all of them positive at this point, as we're one step closer to, in my case, hopefully achieving my day for justice, and most importantly, the protection and accountability, the protection of young people today and tomorrow, and the accountability that is now understood and publicly aware and now publicly demanded. Thank you.
Steve or Dave, you want to say a word about C.T. Wilson and the energy that he brought to this?
I'll go. As most of you know, C.T. Wilson was the sponsor of the Child Victims Act. He was the one who first started it in 2017. He thought he made a reasonable deal with the diocese to extend the statute of limitations. He thought he got the best deal he possibly could. And he was absolutely livid several years later to find out that this church had snuck in the provision to put in the word repose. And that, like I said, that's been key to us, the foot dragging and the consternation and the questionable constitutionality of this. Clearly, we should not be covered under the statute of repose provision. We should be covered under statute of limitations. It's a personal injury. It is not a product liability. And CT has bared his soul in front of his colleagues, and I can't tell you how hard that is. Every year he puts the legislation in, he walks in, he introduces his bill, he gives his personal story, which if you ever saw Delegate Wilson give his testimony, it is tearing him up inside. It hurts to talk about what happened to him. And yet he does it time and time and time and time again, over and over and over, because he knows it's the right thing. He is looking for justice for survivors. CT was not abused in this state, so it doesn't give him any personal win, just as it doesn't for me. But he has fought valiantly to get this bill across the finish line. And I can't thank him enough. I mean, along with everybody else, he stands atop the heap right there. CT did everything. And we would not have this moment if it were not for him.
Yeah. Steve, what does it mean to have the Attorney General weighing in for us?
I talked before about the political winds shifting. It's pretty unprecedented and amazing to have the Attorney General weigh in on a situation like this. And Attorney General Brown has just demonstrated such courage and leadership in this area and in a lot of other areas, but in this area, and has shown his commitment to survivors, and really put his money where his mouth is. So I think it's, Kate can speak to that as an appellate expert. I don't know how many times, Kate, that you've ever had a state attorney general weigh in on an issue like this, but it's extraordinarily rare. And as I said, I think it demonstrates Attorney General Brown's commitment to survivors.
Ray, the Attorney General issued a report that brought all of this to light. What impact do you think that had on the Maryland legislators' willingness to approve and pass and support the Child Victims Act?
I think that it was huge. I think that it served as a catalyst because it really revealed in a public way the pervasive nature and extent of the abuse. So I think it was critical, and I think it was critically important to bring that darkness to light, and for the legislature to be able to see it and act accordingly.
So, again, Roman Catholic Archbishop of Washington versus John Doe, Board of Education versus John Doe, and the Key School versus Valerie Bunker. I explained to some younger lawyers yesterday that it's not always that you get a chance to work on a case where you're impacting so many people, and the privilege to fight and to have an impact and to make a difference is felt today. So again, thank you to the survivors who have been fighting for this. Thank you to the lawyers and the staff who have been supportive all the way through. Thank you again to the press for being here and for keeping the eyes open on this. Thank you to the legislators who put this through, and to the Maryland Supreme Court. This is a tremendous day, a tremendous victory, and we're thrilled that we'll be able to be here with you and sharing it all. We will be here, and we'll stay here for a few minutes afterwards if any of the press have questions. We thank you for coming, and we look forward to representing our clients in court and getting more victories for them. Thanks so much.